Yasodhanandana vraja janaranjana Yasodhanandana vraja janaranjana Yamuna tiravanachari Yamuna tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodhanandana vraja janaranjana Yasodhanandana vraja janaranjana Yasodhanandana vraja janaranjana Yamuna tiravanachari Yamuna tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Stotra Satasi Srimad Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Mayapur Dham ki jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Jnanatirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurum Militan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayan Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dīnabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from the first canto, chapter 12, entitled The Birth of Emperor Parīkṣit, text 10 and 11. So I will read the 10 by myself, and then 11 is on the board. Astrateya swagadaya niharam ivagopati vidamantam sanikarshe parikshata kaityasau. The Lord was thus engaged in vanquishing the radiation of the Brahmastra, just as the sun evaporates a drop of dew. He was observed by the child who thought about who he was. Text 11 on the board. Vidhūya tad ameyātmā Vidhūya tad ameyātmā bhagavān dharma-gub vibhuḥ Bhagavān dharma-gub vibhuḥ miṣato daśamāsasya miṣato daśamāsasya tatraivāntardadhe hariḥ tatraivāntardadhe hariḥ vidhūya tad ameyātmā bhagavān dharma-gub vibhuḥ miṣato daśamāsasya tatraivāntardadhe hariḥ vidhūya tad ameyātmā Bhagavān dharma-gub vibhuḥ miṣato daśamāsasya tatraivāntardadhe hariḥ. Bolo. Bhagavān dharma-gub vibhuḥ tatraivāntardadhe hariḥ. Vidhūya ameyātmā vidhūya ameyātmā tatraivāntardadhe hariḥ. Late. Bhagavān dharma-gub vibhuḥ miṣato daśamāsasya tatraivāntardadhe hariḥ. Ladies. Vidhūya ameyātmā Bhagavān dharma-gub vibhuḥ miṣato daśamāsasya tatraivāntardadhe hariḥ. Bhagavān dharma-gub vibhuḥ miṣato daśamāsasya tatraivāntardadhe hariḥ. Vidhūya, having completely washed off that ameyātmā, the all-pervading Supersoul, Bhagavan, the Personality of Godhead, dharma-gub, the protector of righteousness, vibhuḥ, the supreme, miṣataḥ, while observing, daśamāsasya, of one who is dressed by all directions, tatra then and there, antaḥ, out of sight, dadhe, became, hariḥ, the Lord. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ke. While thus being observed by the child, the Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul of everyone and the protector of the righteous, who stretches in all directions and who is unlimited by time and space, disappeared at once. Purport. Child Parīkṣit was not observing a living being who is limited by time and space. There is a gulf of difference between the Lord and the individual living being. The Lord is mentioned herein as a supreme living being, unlimited by time and space. Every living being is limited by time and space. Even though a living being is qualitatively one with the Lord, quantitatively, there is a great difference between the Supreme Lord and the common individual soul. In the Bhagavad-gītā, both the living beings and the Supreme Being are said to be all-pervading, yena sarvam idam tatam. Yet, there is a difference between these two kinds of all-pervasiveness. A common living being or soul can be all-pervading within his own limited body, but the Supreme Living Being is all-pervading in all space and all time. A common living being cannot extend its influence over another common living being by its all-pervasiveness, but the Supreme Supersoul, the Personality of Godhead, is unlimitedly able to exert his influence is unlimitedly able to exert his influence over all places and all times and over all living beings. And because he is all-pervasive, unlimited by time and space, he can appear even within the womb of the mother of child Parīkṣit. He is mentioned herein as the protector of the righteous. Anyone who is a surrendered soul unto the Supreme is righteous, and he is specifically protected by the Lord in all circumstances. The Lord is the indirect protector of the unrighteous also, for he rectifies their sins through his external potency. The Lord is mentioned herein as one who is dressed in the 10 directions. This means dressed with garments on 10 sides, up and down. He is present everywhere and can appear and disappear at his will from everywhere and anywhere. His disappearance from the side of the child Parīkṣit does not mean that he appeared on the spot from any other place. He was present there, and even after his disappearance, he was there, although invisible to the eyes of the child. This material covering of the effulgent firmament is also something like a womb of the Mother Nature, and we are all put into the womb of the Lord, the Father of all living beings. He is present everywhere, and in this material womb of Mother Durga, and even in this material womb of Mother Durga, and those who are deserving can see the Lord. Purport again. While thus being observed by the child, the Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul of everyone, and the protector of the righteous, who stretches in all directions and who is unlimited by time and space, disappear at once. So what is the main topic of this that we just read? What is being stressed in this purport? Just one word. Okay, actually there is a few things. That's one of them. But I think there is a more important topic being discussed. Anyone? You can be wrong. Say something. Even from the translation. The Lord is being referred here as dharma-gub, the protector of the righteous. And what is being discussed here in this verse is how the Lord protected Parīkṣit Maharaj in the womb. And this is all being discussed in the context of the history of the appearance of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because for the Bhagavatam to appear, Parīkṣit needed to be born. And he was the only descendant of the Puru dynasty. And therefore, there was a need for the Lord to give him protection. And it is described that actually in the previous verse that we just read today, his name, it says, Parīkṣita ka hiti asau. Parīkṣita. And the child in the womb was observing the Lord. And from that we have here the name of Parīkṣit, right? And Parīkṣit means the examiner, or he who was throughout his whole life looking at all human beings, trying to understand or trying to find that person he saw in the womb. So the Lord's protection. And Prabhupada is giving a lot of information about who the Lord is and how the Lord is the ultimate shelter. This is the Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is there actually to establish who and what is the ultimate shelter. So who is that person? Is Krishna, as the Ashraya. Not even the different incarnations of the Lord. The ultimate shelter is Krishna, who Parīkṣit saw in the womb. And what are the characteristics? Why he is the ultimate shelter? It's a very important topic because we want to find what is the ultimate shelter. That's the living entity is searching for this. Even those who are, not searching for Krishna, like the people who are outside in the world, everybody is looking for shelter. But most people are looking for shelter in the wrong place. And the Bhagavatam is there to actually, is descended to Puranarko Dunodita, to give us light about who is the ultimate shelter, from whom we have to surrender to without any reservations. Because this is the thing, if we are going to actually surrender to Krishna, we have to have the conviction that he is the ultimate shelter. So why? And here is explaining, this purport is wonderful. That's why I asked about, what is the main topic, because some of the sentences are like, like faith inspiring. It's meant to inspire our faith in the Lord. And remember that the faith is what drives us forward in Krishna consciousness, our conviction. What is our conviction? That actually surrender to Krishna is the best thing I can do with my life. There is nothing else. The prime duty of my life is to surrender to Krishna. Whatever the circumstances, whatever the obstacles, whatever the challenges that come. And it's particularly relevant today as we are grieving for the attacks that have taken place in Bangladesh, where devotees have been murdered, the property is being destroyed, Prabhupada's murti is being burned, the place is being looted. What are these people, the relatives of these devotees, the devotees in this community? How are they coping with this? Not only how are they coping with which has already taken place, but how are they coping with the fact that it can happen again? The situation is so volatile that even we have to measure our words about what we say about the whole thing, because it may trigger even a more violent response. So how do we understand where someone may be even upset with the events? Where was Krishna there? Did Krishna protect them? Is not he the ultimate shelter? Is he not the supreme protector? Is he Bhakta Vatsala? Right? And this is a very dramatic case, but in our own lives, we may find sometimes that, where is Krishna here? Where is he protecting me? Is he present in my life here? Have you asked yourself this sometime? Situation was so kind of unbearable and painful, like you're thinking, wait a minute, is Krishna here? Is Krishna God? But actually, we have the Shastra is full of these extreme examples of tragedy, of desperation, and we see how the devotees respond to that tragedy, to that difficulty. And how do they respond? What is the common denominator, the common reaction? Is by surrendering to the Supreme Lord, with full conviction that He is the ultimate shelter. So what realization these devotees have? That despite all calamities coming upon them, they are, in the case of Queen Kunti, She is even welcoming those calamities. Vipada santu tat satsvat tatra tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanam yatsyat apunar bhava darshanam. He said, let all these calamities come upon us again and again, so that we can see you again and again. Because seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated birth and death. And what tragedies did she face compared to our little, stories? Her son was killed. Her grandsons were killed. Her sons were put in exile. Poisoned. They were trying to burning alive by her own relatives. And how she is responding to this? Let all these calamities happen again and again, because when these calamities happen, we are remembering you, and because while all this is being taking place, you were here with us. Now Krishna is leaving for Dwarka, and she's afraid. She's lamenting that you're leaving us now. Let all this happen again and again, because when this happens, you come and you're with us, and then we see you. So here in the Purport, Prabhupada is saying that, who is this Lord that we can take shelter of? And Queen Kunti in the prayers, I was just seeing such parallels between what is being described in this verse. And because Queen Kunti in her prayers also, she says, you are inside and outside. You are invisible to everyone, right? And here, like Prabhu mentioned, the all-pervasiveness of the Lord is being described. And he says that he can become bigger than we can think of, and he can become smaller than we can conceive. But in all, okay, that's one thing. Just one second. Yeah, the Lord can become bigger than thousands of universes and can become smaller than an atom at the same time. Merciful as he is, he becomes just suitable to the vision of the limited living being. And it says that by the mercy, basically the point being made here is that who is the Lord? The Lord is everything that exists. Someone who is Krishna conscious, or like the Bhagavatam explains that fear arises from a conception of being separate from the Lord. Because there is nothing outside the Lord. This is the meaning of the absolute truth. The absolute truth means that everything that there exists is Krishna. One time Prabhupada was asked, is Krishna God? And Prabhupada said, yes. He is also hate. Because there's nothing outside of him. Nothing. So the Lord can manifest, can appear at his will. And and we have the examples like Prahlad Maharaj, he was fearless. He was fully Krishna conscious. And when Hiranyakashipu inquired, where is your Lord? Where do you get this power from? Where is your Lord? Is he here in this pillar? And then Prahlad, without any type of doubt, he was fully Krishna. Yes, he's in the pillar. He's everywhere. And the Lord manifested in that pillar. The Lord is within our hearts. He can manifest anytime, even as we're praying. Sometimes have you experienced that? You're offering a prayer and you experience some kind of signal at that point that the Lord has heard it? Yep. Maybe you're offering prayers to the deity and some flower falls out at that particular moment, or something happens. Is it only me? Have you experienced this? Yeah? You don't have to be. The Lord is supremely merciful to even, the most fallen, Patita Pavan. So he is supremely conscious. He's within the heart of every living being. He's the supreme controller. So therefore, there is no one more suitable for him than to take shelter from. Because it's not that he's the richest or that he has the most power. It's that everything, all power comes from him. Everything is not that he owns everything. It means that, everything that exists is actually him. So therefore he can appear, and it's explained here, like in the womb of Uttara, he just manifested, he just appeared, and then he actually counteracted the weapon of the Brahmastra of Ashvatthama. And actually, Parīkṣit was killed in the womb. And the Lord provided a new body to Parīkṣit. Because when he arrived, the heat had already destroyed the body of that soul, Parīkṣit. And he provided a new body. And then Parīkṣit saw him. He was captivated by this darshan, and the Lord disappeared. So the Lord can appear and disappear at his will in any situation. And the Lord is known as Bhaktavatsala. He had taken vows that he will not take weapons on the battle of Kurukshetra. When this happened, the battle of Kurukshetra had not finished yet. Also, in one sense. And he also took, Prabhupada explains, he took the weapon to protect Parīkṣit. So he is prepared to break his own word to give protection to the devotees. One of the main topics in the Srimad Bhagavatam is Poshanam, how he gives protection to the devotees, to those who have surrendered unto him. So, therefore, a devotee having this understanding that about like Burijan Prabhu says something very nice. He says that, you only need to know two things. In the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, you need to know two things. Krishna is all-powerful, and Krishna is all-merciful. If you know these two things, you're well-equipped to deal with, material life and succeed, So he's all-powerful. And he's, everything is happening by his will. And at the same time that not only he is all-powerful, but he is all-merciful. So he's compassionate towards the suffering of the living beings. So now we find ourselves in situations like what have taken in Bangladesh now, or situations of great disturbance, like, we hear about devotees who have left the world lately because of COVID or because of some unexpected disease that comes, and we're shocked. We're shocked. And how do we understand? How do we understand that these devotees were killed, for example, in this act of terrorism? But we find in the history of the universe that this has happened many times, that the righteous person has been killed. It happens in the Mahabharata, it happens in the Ramayana, it happens in the Bhagavatam. We should not be surprised. And Prabhupada says that the devotee should not be surprised when these things happen. Because we are in the material world. And in the material world, like Bhishmadev is explaining in his prayers, that everything is happening by the influence of inevitable time. Everyone, even the most righteous person, is affected by time. Everyone. It's like being in the ocean, and like Prabhupada says, if you are in the ocean, you should not be disturbed by the waves. You should just cross the ocean. Not try to, if you're in the ocean, you're going to get wet. It's just the law of nature. That, being in the material world means that there is going to be suffering. It means that these things are going to happen. But when these things happen, you can look at those things from a Krishna conscious perspective, or you can look you can look at it from a perspective that there is no Krishna in there. So someone who is Krishna conscious, he can become peaceful, although of course not callous about it. It's not that we, we don't feel the pain of the living entity in the material world and the suffering. Of course, the devotee is paradukha dukhi. But at the same time, the devotee understands that nothing happens without the sanction of the Lord. Nothing happens. And the Lord has a plan. Okay? And the ultimate protection, when we're talking about protection by the Lord, what is the ultimate protection? Is it protection of the material body? Is it that we're going to get bread and butter and we're going to get fed? Is that the ultimate protection of the Lord? What is the ultimate protection? What is the ultimate protection? What is the ultimate thing that we want? Anyone? Yes. We want his shelter. We want Krishna. That's the ultimate achievement, the ultimate attainment. We are praying every evening, we're praying now the Damodarastakam prayers. Satyavrata Muni, he's saying, I don't want any boon. He's not even talking about any material boon, protection or going to heaven. He doesn't even mention these things. I don't want liberation. I don't want liberation in Vaikuntha. I don't want any other type of boon. All I want is to have your darshan, my Lord. I want you. That's the ultimate aspiration of the living entity. So when Krishna gives his mercy to us, the ultimate mercy that he gives is giving himself. And we find that a lot of the time, in order for us to let go of the grip, the tight, we're holding on to material nature tightly. And the more the material nature appears alluring and a place for happiness and enjoyment, then the tighter we're holding on to it. So sometimes he has to turn the heat. Krishna, 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 please help. Please. We're more Krishna conscious. We take more shelter of the Lord. So for the devotee, there is no actually favorable or unfavorable situation. Because the devotee, he sees that whatever is happening in his life is happening by the mercy of the Lord. So now, the point we made also here, we were saying that, how do we understand these things when they happen? And Bhishma gave us the answer. It is all, how Yudhishthira, the Pandavas, Yudhishthira is the son of religion personified. Bhishma Dev, a Mahajan, Krishna himself was present, and they had to undergo such tribulations. How is it that you had to undergo all these tribulations? And he says there is only one answer. It must be due to the influence of inevitable time, which, who influence, everybody is carried by time. Just like the clouds are carried by the wind. But who is this inevitable time? This inevitable time is Kala, is Krishna himself. So then everything is happening according to the plan of the Lord. And who can understand the plan of the Lord? No one. No one can understand the plan of the Lord. But we can try to understand at least philosophically that we are only seeing a small fraction of reality. Meaning that, like Prabhupada is explaining in this purport, that the Lord is not limited by time and space. We are limited by time and space. And our perception of reality is also limited by time and space. So the actions of the Lord, when the Lord does something, He's seeing a much broader picture that we are not able to perceive. So even in our lives, when some obstacle takes place, when some difficulty comes, we may be experiencing that right now in our lives. Some problem, and we don't know how to deal with it, and we're just thinking, Krishna, please, why don't you just take this away? Help. Or we may have experienced some tragedy in the past, even in Krishna consciousness. We may have been let down by our devotees, by our authorities. We may have seen some unfair dealings, someone who is not acting with proper character and is being given facility, and we just bewildered. What's going on here? How, is Krishna in control? Here is called dharma-gub. He's the protector of the righteous. We see even Kali Yuga now. Who is prospering in Kali Yuga? Are the righteous people prospering in Kali Yuga? On a short, what we see? Who are the influential people in the world right now? Are they the righteous people? They're not. And they are so powerful. But actually, we are only seeing a small, as I say, a small picture. In our lives, we see a small picture. As we grow older, decades pass, and we can look back a few decades and see that actually that situation, which was so traumatic and so difficult, perhaps was the best thing that could happen to me. I am today here where I am because I went through that experience. And what's happening as we're going through these difficulties is that Krishna is kind of like, is purifying our hearts to the extent that, and we can see how our hearts are being cleansed, how our tolerance is strengthened, and how we are, learning to take more shelter of the Lord, because, when other challenges come in our life later, we are not so faced by them. We can remain peaceful, understanding that everything is happening by the supreme will of the Lord. Is it not a lot easier to deal with life when we understand that, everything is happening by the will of the Lord? So then Bhishma said, it's all happened by inevitable time. And then there is some very beautiful verses where Prabhupada explains how to become Prabhupada and Bhishma Dev. He says that one has nothing to lament if one acts according to 3 principles. Okay? And these 3 principles are that if one is faithful to the Lord, if one is acting according to religious principles, and if one is being guided by the Brahmanas and acting under superior guidance. These 3 principles, okay, I'll repeat. Being aligned with the desires of the Lord, being faithful to the Lord, accepting the Lord's will, okay? Not fighting the Lord. Second, being guided by the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. In other words, we are not acting independently. We're seeking shelter from the devotees and taking their guidance in our decisions in life. And we are strictly following religious principles, following the instructions of the spiritual master. Then if one is acting according to these 3 principles, he says there is no cause for lamentation. In fact, he says that to act according to these 3 principles is the aim of life. This is the aim of life. And if we are acting according, if we do that, whatever is happening in our life is auspicious. Even though it may appear to be not auspicious, even though it may appear to be, like bad, or it's causing us pain, there is no cause for despondency, Prabhupada said. There is no cause for despondency. But this is Krishna consciousness. When we hear the prayers of Kunti Devi, when we hear the teachings of Bhishmadev, they are broadening our vision, so that we can actually respond to these situations in Krishna consciousness. Yes, Krishna is the supreme controller. Sometimes we may not be able to understand what his plan is, but he is still the Lord. And who knows what he's doing in the background? What do we know about the destination of these devotees who have actually left their bodies? When something, it's like you remember before the old cameras, we have films with they were called, I think in Spanish it's called negativos. In English it's called negatives. Your photo is negatives, right? And you have like different frames, right? So in a movies like that, you have different frames. So often in material life, limited by time and space, we're only able to see one frame of the picture. We're not able to see the next frame. We're not able to see the previous frame either. Right? But Krishna can. And whatever he's doing according to the full picture. So we should have that faith. I mean, whatever is happening to me also, I may have done something wrong in the past. That's how I take it. But it will be wrong to say that these devotees, that happened to them because of their previous karma. We don't know. We just don't know. Krishna knows. Prabhupada says in the purport to these verses that it will be wrong to think that the sufferings of Yudhishthira Maharaj and all the Pandavas were because of the previous karmas. The Lord had a plan. What was the plan? The appearance of the Srimad Bhagavatam. All the events that are taking place in this first canto is leading to Parīkṣit Maharaj being enthroned as the emperor, so that he is cursed to die, and Shukadeva Goswami comes and speaks the Bhagavatam. For whom? For us. Did the Lord protect Parīkṣit Maharaj? Yes. So what happened after when Shringi cursed him to die in 7 days? Did the Lord protected him there? He was the emperor of the world, a young man, relatively young man. Everything he was doing, it was paka. All rulers of the universe were coming and surrendering to him. It wasn't that he was overstressed with the administration of the world. Everything was going good. And then he was cursed. And what was his response again? Did he complain? Did he say, this silly son of a Brahmana, why is doing this? I'm doing everything perfect. What did he do? He immediately took shelter of the Lord. So that's a lesson. That's what the Bhagavatam is teaching us. That's what all these situations are there for in our lives and in the world. That we actually learn to take shelter of Krishna with full faith. That actually everything is happening as is meant to happen. That doesn't mean, of course, that we become complacent and we just don't do anything, But it means that we understand, we trust Krishna. That's what it means. You trust Krishna. And I like this very much. One pastime in that Burijan Prabhu also tells that, there was one time, actually, it's not him, he comments on it, but it's not, because there was one time when he approached Prabhupada, and he said, how can I trust my authority? You know, I mean, he wasn't doing his sadhana, or and how can I follow him? And you know what Prabhupada's answer was? Prabhupada said, trust no one. Only trust Krishna. I think in another occasion he said, don't even trust me, I'll let you down. Trust Krishna. But now, does it mean that we should trust no one? Is that what Prabhupada is saying? That's not what it is. That's not the meaning. The real meaning is not that we just like, okay, I cannot trust anyone. Look at all the corruption that's going on. These devotees, they have, personal agendas, and no, it's not like that at all. But what it means is that we have that supreme trust in Krishna. It means that, whatever may be happening in life, we understand that actually Krishna is the supreme controller and he's the supreme protector. And if I act according to these three principles I just mentioned, anyone remembers what they were, the three principles? Okay? Yeah? Yeah? Actually, you mentioned two twice. One more. Acting according to religious principles, being guided by the Brahmanas, okay, and by the Vaishnavas, and being faithful to the Lord, okay? That if I act according to these things, everything is okay. I don't have to fight the circumstances. I don't have to lament. I don't have to resent. I don't have to be sorrowful or bitter about it. This is just Krishna may giving me some medicine here for my ultimate benefit. Krishna will, like they say, everything comes out in the wash. Let Krishna deal with it. Let Krishna deal with it. He will. He's dealing with it right now, and I just don't see it. Okay? Not one moment. Krishna can manifest anytime. He can do whatever he wants anytime. Like in Damodarashtakam, Yashoda is trying to bind him, and she can't. Why? He's unlimited. He's beyond time and space. But how she binds him? With her love. That's why the Lord is known as Bhakta Vatsala. And this is what is being mentioned here, and this is the essence of what we are celebrating on this month of Kartik. And we're so fortunate to be here in Mayapur, here in Srimad Bhagavatam class, attending the Artics. Is the love of the devotees for the Lord, that unconditional love. Because we're talking about protection, having full faith. The devotees are saying, even if you send me to hell, but I am Krishna conscious, I prefer that than even going to Vaikuntha. But Satyavrata Muni is saying, I don't even want that consciousness. I want you, Krishna. So whatever austerities, whatever troubles we are undergoing in our lives, we should see that that's the price for Krishna. If I just undergo, if you just tolerate it, I remain respectful, I don't demand any respect from anyone, I chant the holy names with full, in a heartfelt, prayerful mood, that yes, Krishna, I cannot get this together. You please, you come and help me. It has to come to that point that we're helpless. That's the mood of chanting. And often, for us to come to that point, to come to our knees, Krishna is going to put us through the mill. I mean, not necessarily, but it happens, you know. Maybe some of us have experienced that. So that we come to that point of just fully taking shelter of Krishna. And Krishna is established through the whole Bhagavatam, through the whole scripture. He is the protector of the surrendered souls. That's his greatest quality. That's the most confidential knowledge of all. We hear in Bhagavad-gītā the most confidential knowledge. What is the most confidential knowledge? The most confidential knowledge is that when we actually surrender and give our hearts to Krishna, when we submit to Krishna, Krishna becomes submissive to the devotee. And that's happening already to us at this moment in our lives. Whatever stage we are, Krishna is already intervening in our lives. And he is giving us an opportunity to take shelter of him. He is giving us an opportunity to actually introspect and see what is it that I'm holding on to that is preventing me from fully take shelter of him. Like we have the example of Draupadi. Govinda, 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 but she's holding to the sari. And Shakuni is like, you know, a Maharati, I'm like a super powerful, what she can do, and she's still holding, please, please. And eventually she's just Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. And Krishna comes and reciprocates. And it's told the story that she previously had done a little favor for Krishna. Krishna had cut himself, and she had cut a little bit of her cloth to heal the wound. Krishna didn't forget. So Krishna will not forget whatever efforts we make to help him. If any doubt arises in our minds when these things happen, this is Maya. Krishna didn't forget this devotee's surrender, this devotee's dedication. He didn't. You don't know what's the next picture, the next frame for them. And this is the same in our lives. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande. I was planning to leave time for questions, but it's 9 o'clock. So unless you have some ardent questions, an ardent question, we'll finish here. Okay, one question. Those who want to leave, you can leave. Thank you very much for being in the class. And thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for a nice class. So my question was, as you shared the pastime of Parīkṣit Maharaj, when he was cursed by Brahmins, so he immediately took the shelter of Krishna with full faith. So while administering the whole world, he must be facing many problems and obstacles. But at this point, he completely took shelter and just went for hearing Bhagavatam. So the situation was completely out of control that he needs to leave the body. That's why he surrendered fully, or like, can you elaborate this little bit? Like,
Parīkṣit Maharaj, he was throughout his whole life taking shelter of the Lord. He was a pure devotee, just like Shukadeva Goswami. It's explained that's why the Lord came in the womb. Even before he came into being Parīkṣit, he was already a pure devotee of the Lord. And he appeared for a particular purpose. So he was always taking shelter of the Lord. But, you know, you can compare, in one sense, the problems of ruling the kingdom with being cursed to die in 7 days. At that point, he only had one option. I mean, he had also the option of trying to fight or counteract the curse, trying to, you know, do it himself. But no, what he did is just accepted the plan of the Lord, and he took full shelter by sitting down and hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam until the end of his life. So it's not that he wasn't hearing the Bhagavatam, but prior to that, he had other duties. At that point, he had only one duty. And what it was? To fix his mind on Krishna and prepare himself for the next life. We're all going to face that moment. Every one of us. It's going to happen to us. He was fortunate enough that he was warned. Maybe we don't get a warning. So therefore, we have to constantly take shelter. But he was taking shelter. At that point, it was time to give up the kingdom and just focus on doing the main activity. Like right now, most of us, we cannot just sit down and hear Bhagavatam all day, right? Because we have other duties. But we should never compromise those other duties or compromise our hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, our sadhana practices for other activities. There must be a balance. But those activities, when done in Krishna, when those activities are executed in Krishna consciousness, they are supportive to our sadhana. They are supportive to our spiritual practices. If they are, it's not separate. Sometimes we have this, I'll go my material life, my spiritual life. That's not really correct understanding. Everything is spiritual. Everything is integrated in our lives. But at one point, we give up those, secondary activities and engage in fully just hearing and chanting. Is that answering the question? Yeah. Okay, I think Mataji had a question there.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for the class. My question is, when the calamities happen, we accept it, or if we surrender to, take shelter of the Lord, is it one and the same thing?
Same thing.
Is it the same thing? It's
like I actually, this word surrender, because of our background, it has heavy connotations, right? Surrender means like you have to accept something that you don't want, you're going to do something that you don't want to do, or something like that, right? But actually, I never clicked, but that's the way Bhaktivinoda Thakur, how is surrender? Sharanagati. Sharanagati means what? To take shelter. So surrender and taking shelter, the same thing.
Accepting the calamity and taking shelter, is it one and the same? Like accepting calamity for me.
What do you mean by accepting the calamity?
It means like I just say, oh, it's my past karma, that's why it happened. That's accepting the calamity.
It's not necessarily that we have to just blame ourselves, but at the same time, I take your point that it is true that the body, we should own the problem, okay? So it means that when something happens like this, we should not go into the blaming mode, okay? That's, this the body, or this person, or this or that, or this. No, that we own the problem. We're talking about ourselves, not talking about someone else's problem. I don't go to you and say, you own your own. If you come to me with a problem and say, own your own problem, you deal with it. No, ourselves. So I own the problem means, I may have done, according to the philosophy, I may have done something in the past. But ultimately, the point there is that we cannot understand the plan of the Lord. It's all happening by Krishna's plan. And I cannot understand why he's doing it, but I can understand one thing, that he's my well-wisher, he wants the best for me, he wants me to surrender to him, he wants me to go back to him, and my duty is to serve him in all circumstances. And therefore, I'm taking shelter of him. If it's something I've done in the past, if it's something that, it's just the nature of the material world. The nature of the material world is going to be misery. No, Prabhupada himself. Did Prabhupada have to burn any karma? I don't think so. Okay, but was he afflicted? Yes. In our case, definitely, in my case at least, we definitely have karma, right? So the karma is there. But the point is ultimately to see in the broader picture. And that's Krishna consciousness, and that's why we need to read Bhagavatam. That's why we need to associate with the devotees, because we will lose sight of the picture. If we don't do it, gradually we just kind of lose it, And then all of a sudden, it's like sometimes we become overwhelmed, or all these things going on, and I don't like this, and I don't like the way they're doing this, and it's like that, and it's like that. It's like the blues of the mind, what am I doing here, and so before we come to that point, we have to keep ourselves on that higher vibration, higher consciousness, which is being described here, through association, through chanting, through hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And then, I remember the first time I visited the temple to stay overnight, I was in Bhaktivedanta Manor, and there was this devotee, it was an older man, like 50, 60 years old or something, and he was coming from Vrindavan, from burying his grandson. And the way he was explaining it, he was saying, oh, he was so fortunate he left this wall in Vrindavan. For me, it was mind-blowing, I was thinking, gosh, a baby just died. What is more tragic than that? Can you imagine, Little baby is the most adorable thing, right? And he dies, and it's traumatic. And the way he was speaking about it, to me, it was like, these devotees are amazing, He was Krishna conscious. So our Krishna consciousness will be tested, but Krishna will do it in a way that we don't break also. But the more tolerant we become, the harder the test. It is like that, until we become fully surrendered to the Lord. That's why Prabhupada says that the greatness of a person is his ability to tolerate provoking situations. Like that. Clear? Yeah. Prabhu, last question. I'm going to get into trouble. I got a special message, finish by 9. Anyway, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, just a technical question. You mentioned that Parīkṣit Maharaj had left the body, in the material body, and Krishna gave him another body.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you're quoting from somewhere else, or it's in the Bhagavatam?
No, this is in the Bhagavatam, explained in the Bhagavatam. I believe maybe is explained, maybe not in this first canto, maybe in the third canto, somewhere.
It's explained that he left the body, Krishna provided another body.
Krishna just manifested another body, but because the soul is different from the body, the same soul took another body.
Then my question is like, Krishna protected the weapon through his weapon, then the weapon has already acted, then what is the meaning of protection?
That's the meaning.
The weapon.
Okay, that's the key point. Who is being protected? I mean, protection may take place on a material platform. Okay, the Lord gives that protection also. In this case, He gave that protection. He provided another body. But the ultimate protection is the protection of our consciousness, the protection of the soul. That's the ultimate protection, that we actually remain Krishna conscious. And that's our prayer. And like we are praying now, again, with these prayers, Amorad-arastakam, we're praying for the Lord to manifest in our hearts, for the Lord to become visible to our eyes, so that we actually develop that love, that pure love that Mother Yashoda has for Him. So ultimately, that's, the material body, I mean, it's gonna die anyway. Our material possessions, they're gonna be taken away. All that is really valuable is our relationship with Krishna. And that's our greatest treasure, and we want to protect that. And we ask Krishna for protection from that. Okay, I went into a little tangent there, but the point, I'm just explaining about what we're talking about, protection. Okay? Does that make sense? Or you're looking for something else? What's the question then?
My question was like, Krishna protected Parīkṣit Maharaj. He destroyed the weapon, but the weapon had already acted. Then how he destroyed did it? That was the technical point.
What's the problem with
I was just like asking a technical
one body is taken, he gets another body.
Okay.
What's the big deal?
I just thought technically that's it.
Yeah, that's it. He was ultimately protected by the Lord. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande Haribo. Thank you.